Friday's on the edge. Friday's on the edge.
Yeah. It might be late.
Heck yeah.
But where we're at, it's still Friday.
It's still Friday in Colorado where we are.
So it might not be Friday where you are.
But where we are. We're having a nice late night edition of Fridays on the Edge. It kind of harkens back to like when we used to do the old days of like free coaching Fridays. A lot of times we do that at like 11 o'clock and we'd get people from like Japan. It was like morning for them. It was great. We got a huge international audience.
Like members from like Japan, Singapore, and we still
have our fellow
if you're
night owls.
Still, then hey, you might be awake right now.
Yeah, our fellow night owls, and then also like our international audience. So and we love that.
Yeah, and we do. As funny as it is now, my sleep schedule just like doesn't exist anymore because sometimes I have to teach people at the equivalent of like my 1 a.m. and other times it's like at my maybe 8 a.m. or 5 a.m. or
Nato
2
teaches
p.m.
those trainings
because it's international,
at all different times.
And so I teach
all over the world.
I teach at 8:30 a.m. oftentimes somewhere where I'm not. It's very
8:30 somewhere in the world.
Yeah, it's very rare that I teach in my time zone. Sometimes I teach in my time zone. Sometimes.
But yeah, so anyway, Friday's on the Edge. Of course, I'm Laura and this is Nato, and we are Cloud Underground. I probably should have started with that, but
yes, Cloud Underground. Cloud Underground is an asset management company. Never heard of us. What do? We help you manage cloud native assets. And one of the exciting things that we're doing right now is we just built our own fancy SaaS technology called Cloud Ops. The whole idea is we lowered our own friction to managing our operations. Like we didn't want to have a whole bunch of teams. And one thing about us is we weren't some big giant company who needed to like maybe figure out how to downsize. We were actually just some startup. And then we were like, hey, what if we could just not end up with an IT department or operational teams of these large sizes and we could just automate it all?
That's right.
Basically just get straight to, So we spend most of our time just staffing and managing labor, and our platform is so automated.
Yes, automate the boring things.
That person needs to go right there, and our SaaS just says, hey, these assets will be managed by these exact people, and it'll do it all automatically. They just have to have their email address and show up. And then someone has to have a project that needs to be delivered. And we decided to make complex things simple. Like building apps and like cloud native things is normally really complicated. So our goal is to build jobs, right?
Yeah. Like that's one thing we want to talk about a little bit tonight about is why we even do any of the stuff that we do, why we built the business that we built. A big part of our motivation is essentially just to help other people grow to where we've grown and beyond as well. So
I should post this in our community.
We definitely want to talk a little bit more about some of those things, and job creation is a big part of what we do, even if we're not necessarily creating like traditional 9 to 5 employment for people. We are creating a lot of opportunities for people in the freelance contractor space. We also, work directly with people in our underground ops environment with our underground ops MSP, essentially. Those are all just contractors who are all people that we've met through the DevSecOps Dojo, who we've worked with, and who are now part of our direct ecosystem of drop squads that we, use to staff out various jobs that we with clients that we work with. So.
Yeah, like, I don't know, like just the way that we work, we wanted to come up with a way because there are a lot of people these days who either are just like solopreneurs or have like some side job and they just want to be able to like just get some work routinely or check out like where they can get work. Now, what we're doing right now is in beta testing, starting really like next week, where we're building out like some test jobs. We have a few folks working on some test jobs already, and then some folks next week we'll be starting some test jobs. We'll see how that goes for everyone. And this will be first time our drop squad board will start paying people. But we wanted to come up with like a new flexible way to do staffing. So like our boards right now, if anyone's trying to get a job, we're not currently hiring. So we're not going to be opening up any other membership options for anyone until next year sometime.
Yeah, not at the moment. We're just kind of testing a few things with our current people that we have,
Yeah.
kind of just smoothing out the system so that we can ultimately scale and open up opportunities for even more people. So,
Yeah, and we're going to keep our program in beta testing until basically it's, like stably generating like enough for people to kind of start figuring out how to make a living off of the job board. And so, but yeah, the whole idea was we wanted to make software. So it's like with all the, you know, some people do remote work, some people have their offices, some people like to hire contractors. And we were like, what if we made a way that made it to where whether people are in an office or not, because web browsers exist these days and you have the internet, where if someone does have specific assets, because, if you manage servers and software and cloud native pieces, then, you want to have all these security configurations and things in place. But we automate all of that. So where we make like a little tunnel design that basically people can just drop right into what they're supposed to get. It'll automatically figure out where they go. And it's not that this is like the first thing that does that exists, but I guess the difference is what we do from a cost standpoint is actually mostly labor. So it
mhm.
allows us to basically just do things at a cost that others can't do, which allows us to use that money to instead put it toward like labor. And we have so much automation that since it replaces the equivalent of like entire departments, then put additional labor on top of that and you get like a force multiplier. So the idea too is for people who are doing a good job and really know what they're doing, like for people who are really customer oriented, we want people to be capable of focusing more on the customer. And so we
Mhm.
see like, well, what's that labor for if you have all this automation? It's like the automation allows you to like really just focus on doing the best you can for like customer service. Customer success is a big deal for us. Being
Definitely.
able to do quality assurance, making sure that you have like confidence in what you've built that you're going to like start sending out. A lot of customers want to know ways to like test their products and MVPs that they build, without testing it with like a live audience first.
Hmm.
Because it's not that easy to go from like, well, how do we get a small audience to do like a test product? And they'll just like go straight to production, and it can be messy and work, but
But there's also better ways to do it, and there's some very low friction, low overhead ways to do it with uh, the cloud ops SaaS that we've created. So.
yeah, so we automate a lot of that monotony away,
Hmm.
and we make it incredibly easy for people to collaborate. So just over a web browser, instead of having like when you're doing like help desk things and someone's like taking over your computer and stuff like that, we create little shared workspaces that allow people to collaborate with all your resources in a secure way without having to like be a master of security
That's right.
and things like that. And then because once again it's very customer service oriented, currently anything that is like someone has like a preference for something, then the fact that we don't have as many bills, it makes it really easy for us to continue automating more for customers. So if a customer is like, oh, well, I really wish that you had XYZ, we have all the flexibility to very easily and for a fairly reasonable cost, like just go engineer things that someone's like, oh, if only this thing existed. And so that's kind of a lot of what we specialize in. So we do a lot of consulting because consulting is a great way to hear that. And so people oftentimes ask, well, how do you find customers? You just do a lot of consulting. If you do
Right.
consulting, you like sit and you're like talking to people, you're like going to dinner together, you're like brainstorming. And then at some point, they're going to be like, oh, if only this thing, boom. And then there you go. Then you have a use case for a product build. You're like, hey, you want to build a product? Wow, let's do it. Let's go. Let's build something cool.
Yeah.
So, in consulting, it's like you get to kind of get paid to hang out. Well, it's not like hang out. You have real things to do. Like you want to help businesses improve their numbers. And so then you got to do good yourself so you're not like ruining your customers.
But I do think that there's
You
some
want to
merit
grow
in
people.
saying that, like, hanging out, it can be helpful because it's like you're getting to know the customer, the client, what their needs are, and the better that you can, like, help them, and the better you can understand what they need. That's, what you're trying to do as a consultant in the first place, right? Is
Yeah,
help
help
people
them
solve their
grow.
problems or help them scale or, whatever it may be. So the more you can kind of have that like personal relationship with them, the better you're going to understand them and be able to help them grow and succeed. in a
Yeah.
way that's like going to work with their company culture.
Yeah, and I think we kind of have a better understanding of how to explain the types of companies we work with too.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the past we had trouble like marketing, like who do we really work with and things like that. Like our largest customer environments are like customers who generate like over $100 million in annual recurring revenue. Because in the past we'd be people like, well, we don't really work with companies who work with like small teams. We're not really a small team. We're a big team. We're like, wait, hold on. What we do is almost exclusively for very large teams.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was a thing that we ran into with some confusion in our early days and past years. And this year we've really started to, really find the kinds of companies.
Right.
We do work with some smaller companies here and there. It's not that we don't. It's just more likely than not that if you have like under 500 employees, really it's more likely if you have at least 1,000 employees, it's more likely that what we do is something that you'd be interested in, probably join.
Mm-hmm.
And so the job boards are more like if you're like a solopreneur, we're going to have these job boards, and if we're getting these big jobs, obviously we need people who are sophisticated and can do like cloud engineering, because the work that we do, with cloud underground, cloud native assets. If you don't know what cloud is and you don't know what cloud native is, I'm not so sure that this is for you or that you would probably get that work. But yeah, if you're like an app developer, you work with cloud native technology, you could even be in like IT and have, strong skills in doing like certain things. There's a need for all those different types of skills. And so when we go and we find these people who, have thousands of employees and they're trying to come up with new scalable concepts and ways to reduce overhead and smooth out their revenue and things
Mm-hmm.
like that. They have like all these different goals. You're going to need like a lot of different hats, and inevitably you can't really do it all yourself. And so, we always need someone who can do something specialized. So there's something out there for everyone. So as we grow, just know, we're going to be building out these job boards. If you're already in our Drop Squad job boards, then for the most part, you know what you're getting yourself into. But yeah, so if you are a solopreneur, someone who's trying to build side gigs, or even if you just want to build your first business, our what we're building is for mostly like we work with like partners, and in some cases we'll bring you on board if for certain projects, depending on
Mm-hmm.
how we want to approach things. So, anyways, we're open to discuss what's going to be interesting. So we're very much so, we're very project based.
Yeah,
If you're a large
absolutely.
company, you want to build
Absolutely.
something.
Yeah, and of course, we're pretty easy to get in touch with. You can reach out to us on LinkedIn. If you're, on, obviously, you can join the DevSecOps Dojo. There's a link in the video description wherever you're watching this. And that's another great way to get in touch with us is to join the dojo. Yeah.
Yeah, the DevSecOps Dojo. It is the community where pretty much all of us who are jamming. The technologies we use were actually built in our community by our community, and our consulting company was also built by our community. We built this company called Cloud Underground,
Yeah.
and we had this idea to teach cloud by building cloud. And then we built the cloud, and then we were like, well, when you have a cloud, there's not much purpose in it if you don't have like reasons to have it. So people use cloud for business. So we're going to start a business that runs on our cloud. And so we decided to start a consultancy that runs on the cloud that we made. That's Underground Ops. And
That's
then
great.
both companies monetized within 2 years, and both generate annually recurring revenue. So we're diversified on our different companies. And then it gets a lot more complicated from there. So
Yes, it does.
that was the first company that we just randomly were like, oh yeah, members doing things, starting companies with members. This is a great idea. How fun!
Mm-hmm.
So once it starts, it
Here we
doesn't
are.
stop.
That's right.
So
Uh,
yeah, if you're building businesses, we're just around a bunch of other business owners. You can come join us, meet other solopreneurs or side giggers. There are plenty of people who just work day jobs and just like to have side businesses. That's also super popular. It's just, do you like businesses? It doesn't
mm-hmm.
matter if it's a side business or your main business. Hey, business is a business, and so we do business.
We're here for it.
That's right.
Amazing.
Yeah. Well, excellent.
Well, any closing thoughts for Fridays on the Edge this evening? other than like, we hope you guys all come connect with us. And yeah, just summing it up, a big part of our motivation is just to create more opportunities for more people by creating more opportunity and whatnot for ourselves and those around us. So,
Create things and automate the stuff you don't want to do. If you don't
yes,
want to do 2 years of like IT configurations every time you build data centers,
like we did.
automate 2 years of boring configurations. Just do it. Automate 2 years of your life away.
We highly encourage it. Yes.
Yeah, it's outstanding.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week for another edition of Fridays on the Edge.